My name's Alan Shrom, but almost everybody calls me Al. I've been in the hiking club. I started in, well, let's go back. Was born and raised in Reading and lived right at the base of Mount Penn by the pagoda. So we were always up in the woods when we were kids, with forts up there and whatever. There was the woods, that's where we played. We didn't, came home when the street lights came on. That's when we had to get home. But in 91, I was on the Appalachian Trail at 183. I went south on the trail for about half mile and ran into a snake. So I turned around and went the other way and went northbound for about a half mile and ran into another snake. And I thought, this is it for me. I'm never going to do this again. But then I gave it a second chance and I started section hiking the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania, and I finally got it done. And I started doing other places in New Jersey. I would hike over there. I would drive in. I'd walk in halfway and walk back out. And the next weekend I'd come back and go to the other end and walk in and walk back out. Took me a while, but then I did New York with Joan and George. We did New York, and we've been doing Connecticut. And George and I did the Appalachian Trail in Georgia at one of the conferences, and I did 100 miles in Virginia. And then I did Maryland and West Virginia, which isn't very much. But that's how I started hiking, 91 and 92. I joined BMECC because I had met George, I don't remember how anymore.
Can you say his last name, George?
George Schallenberger, who was well known for his hiking abilities and his speed, you know. Could never keep up with him, especially in the rocky sections. And he got me interested in doing trail work. So I would carry the chainsaw and he would use it. Went to 2 chainsaw classes to get certified. And that's how I started doing trail work. And I just liked doing trail work. I was a director for a couple times, and I'm a member of the Trails Committee and Trail Monitoring with Larry Kramer. Because George Schallenberger and I, we do a lot of the boundary work. We check the boundary to make sure nobody's infringing and repaint the blazes. Again, George finds them all, and I carry the paint can. And some of that can be harder than hiking on the Appalachian Trail because there's no trail, and it's just steep and rocky sometimes, and you're trying not to spill the paint. So that's my role in the club. Mostly, I'm interested in trail work. I don't like to be in a position of like a secretary or a treasurer or a president or anything like that. I like BMEC. I like the people. A lot of interesting people met over the years, and they all love the trail. Especially G. McCarney had a good time up there, but everybody's interested in the trail and what they can do to preserve it. A trail tale I'd like to tell. There's a lot of them, but I'm thinking, I already said to Tracy about this. So I was going into Weed Whack one time off 183 North. It was a dreary day, a little foggy and rainy, and I just watched the Blair Witch Project. And it was deadly silent in there, and it got really, really quiet, and a little ground fog, and it sort of gave me the jitters, so I weed whacked really quick and headed out of there. And there a time, my wife Helen and I were out hiking on, not on the Appalachian Trail, Second Mountain Trail. I was going to lead a hike, and I wanted to do it beforehand so I knew where I was going. And I wasn't sure where I was. I told her to wait somewhere. And I went down through, and when I came back up to look for her, I went a different direction. I couldn't find her. And finally, I retraced my steps and found her up there, and she was just up there sitting on a rock, oblivious to what she almost got. I almost lost her. So that was one tale. My legacy, I just like to remember somebody who was interested in maintaining the trail, helping out whenever I could. Trail work was, at one time, George Schallenberger was trail chairman. Now it's Scott Birchman, who I think is doing a great job. I like to work with him. He does a lot of trail work. He does a lot on his own, and he has Thursday trail trips that I usually can't go on because I'm working at Memorial Lake and Swatara State Park. But I just want people to remember me as helping out whenever I could. I helped Catherine Shea clean up the Skew Bridge whenever she has trail trips, you know, which I enjoy doing, and that's always fun. I put my glasses on to read these questions. My favorite place on the Appalachian Trail, of course, is Pulpit Rock. Helen and I maintain the section from Windsor Ferns to Pulpit Rock. I get up there whenever I can, and It's not too bad a section to maintain. Sometimes trees come down. Somebody told me there were trees down one time, and Helen and I went up to check them out. I just had a chainsaw and one bottle of gas, and they told me there was like 2 or 3 trees down. Well, till we got done, there was 14 trees down. So I just made it with enough gas. And now when I go up, I carry a folding saw, which usually I can cut a tree unless they're too big around. And a lot of times maintaining that section is easy because Ron Kunkel takes care of the Lehigh Observatory up top, and people will tell him when there's trees down, he passes the information on to me. And Helen and I also maintain the section in Swatara Gap from Route 443 to the Waterville Bridge, which isn't too bad except for the one water crossing there, which has me perplexed. I don't know what to do there. Everything just keeps washing away what I put in. So, and that's about it. I just like being a member of BMECC, enjoy the hikes, enjoy the work trips.
That's good. So, what was your your favorite trail on the Appalachian Trail at all? Section wise, it doesn't have to be Pennsylvania. Any place basically.
Any place.
Yeah.
I sort of liked in New York, going up from I think it's called there's a zoo up there. I think it's Bear Mountain Preserve.
Or it goes right through it.
You go through it, but when you go up those rocky section there, Bear Mountain, I think it's called. But
yeah.
Since I was up there with George and Joan Schallenberger, they put steps in there now. And that was a challenging section. And also Lehigh Gap. I like the rocks going up Lehigh Gap. I think that's really interesting. The worst part of the trail I don't really care for is going Port Clinton south up that hill.
Was that about 1,000-foot descent?
Yeah, 1,000-foot elevation gain in 2 miles. I took my son up there one time, and he was dying, and he asked me to stop, and I didn't let him know I was only too glad to stop, to let him rest up, because I wanted to rest too. And George and I were up there one time in January, and I was carrying a chainsaw, and I got about halfway up, and I thought, I'm just going to put the chainsaw down and go back down. George will come down and find the chainsaw, because I can't go anymore, but I made it, so that's about it.
I mean, do you find it like when we're doing trail work sometimes on the trail? How do you carry your chainsaw? Do you have a special backpack to put yours in,
George
or
has a pack he made as a scabbard like, and you put an old I guess frame pack.
Yeah.
And they have a plywood sheath on it, and they put the blade in first, and the motor's up by your head. And it makes it a lot easier to carry, you know.
How many pounds is that about?
I think it might be about 20. I'm not sure, but it's no heavier than a backpack. It's lighter than a backpack. But then I have my pack on too with the gas and oil, my food and water. So.
Wow.
But I'm used to carrying it. I don't mind one bit, you know.
That's good. What would you say? Can you explain more what a sawyer does on the Appalachian Trail?
A sawyer usually will just cut trees that are down. They don't fell trees. They don't have to. It's a lot. If one's leaning too much, you might have to cut it. But it's a lot easier to cut them once they're down, as long as they're not blocking the trail, and clear it out.
Right.
And you try and make as few cuts as possible to preserve your gas, because you don't want to run out of gas. So.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So, explain a little bit more, like with blowdowns. What does the ATC kind of mean with blowdowns? Actually, like when people, I guess there's different types of blowdowns.
Some you can just step over. They're
right.
not too bad. You can get them when you need them. Some fall just right, so they act as check dams or a water bar. But the worst time is when the crown falls on the trail. That's what takes time, and usually it's tangled up with vines and all. And that's what they want cleared. They want a section 4 foot wide by 8 foot high to walk through.
Wow.
To make it clear enough. That's what their guidelines are.
Wow.
And blazes where you need them, you know, don't overblaze, but don't underblaze.
Yeah, what is usually the rule for blazing, actually? What is it, every mile, pretty much?
Oh, no, it's a lot sooner than that.
Oh, is it?
I really don't know. I'd say maybe every